Hello, hello. Welcome. And this is class 2 of Compassionate Self-Care Program. And I'm so delighted to have my dear friend Shez Elena here with us.
Hi.
And my other dear friend Annie Holcomb, who's just, her screen froze. So she disappeared and she's coming back on. And we've just been having a lovely meander on the thought that our intention here tonight is really just to share care and to not have any efforting, just really wanting to relax into the most comforting empathy for ourselves and each other. And as I say that, I just feel a deeper rest coming, which is beautiful. And what's here is just to share my gratitude as well and invite both of you lovely women to say hello and whatever's alive for you.
Shall I go first? Hi, Annie. Who's here? I can see there's two people. Do you know who's here, Karen?
I can see Lynn's jumped on. Hello, Lynn.
Hello, Lynn.
Hello, Lynn. And the way I have my screen set up, I can't scroll down very well on my chat box. I'm just having a look. So yes, hello, Lynn, and
lovely to be here.
It is. I was musing that it's like having a little window into the world, and having a sense that those people who join us tonight and the people who watch the recording later, that they just might enjoy the relaxed sort of hanging out that we're doing tonight as a expression of self-care. Because my day and my evening last night I've asked a fair bit of myself in terms of my energy, and I had some mourning today, and I was able to get back in my body with some lovely support from these two beautiful women, and the fact that I was held in such a way that I could mourn that I'm still learning my boundaries with my energy and how to really stay in the resonance of self-care the way I'd really like. And that I can get a bit cranky with myself and find myself having shoulds and I should'ves, and that those sort of judgmental thoughts have a way of zapping my energy. And so I'm in gentle recovery of my own thinking. Coming back into the body and warmth and friendship and smiling, and my energy is just shifting and becoming more alive and more loving and more peaceful, and it's a wonderful thing. This energy of self-care. Sheziwa, would you like to say hi? And what's alive for you?
Hi. I'm feeling relaxed and calm and curious and grateful to be here with you both. And I don't have a sense of how to see how you see who's on. But I heard you mention Lynn, and I'm not sure who the other person, what other people are present. And I'm enjoying sitting in front of a window and being able to see the sky and the trees outside, and having fresh air, just meeting my needs, and got a cup of water, so I'm good to go.
Thank you. Hi, Irene and John. Thank you. Welcome. Feeling very supported for the two of you and your care and support, and enjoying so much the sort of sweetness of having an intimate group gathered around. It's sort of like I have this image of us sort of snuggled in around the fireplace to talk self-care in a really warm, sort of supported way tonight. And I did create slides. I have done, and yet something quite different happened this week as I was preparing the lovely colours in the slides and having some fun. And in previous weeks, Annie and I have got together early and we've pre-recorded during the day, and we've had lots of energy in those recordings, and it's been quite. I think it met some needs for feeling more relaxed in the live sessions. So relaxed and easeful. I was really keen for that sort of sense of being able to show up in the live sessions in a really relaxed way. And yet I don't know that the slides pre-recording them actually supported that intention to have it be relaxed. So tonight we're just going live with the slides. I haven't pre-recorded any notes. I don't actually have printed notes either, so we're just going to chat really as we go through them. And I would love, I've invited both Annie and Shez to just jump in whenever it feels alive for them. Let me see. Let me know if it's if there's any issue with being able to see the slides. I'm just going to wander through them. The self-care definition that I started to play with last week, I've popped that up into the home screen there. And it's really just this distinction I'm making between what I think most people consider as self-care, or the common understanding of self-care being the activities that we do to look after ourselves, like going for a bike ride or having a walk or getting a massage or doing the activities. And I'm really keen to develop an awareness of the consciousness from which those activities spring. So if we're in a really self-care relationship and with ourselves, and we're doing the sort of companionship and kindness in our talking with ourselves, that there's a more natural springing forth of activity to meet our needs than perhaps what we might think that we're doing for ourselves from a head place. I'm going for a run because it's good for me, as opposed to what my body's longing for is actually some warmth, and maybe a bath would work. So actually seeing that inner relationship as the home of self-care and having the activities spring from there. And I wonder if either of you would like to reflect for me what you're hearing me say, or how it matters to you.
Either of us?
Yeah.
Or the other?
Well, I'd be really happy if people in the chat would like to comment too. Like, is this self-care paradigm? Oh, Lynn had to download the Chrome extension. Yes, that happened for Shez as well, Lynn. A bit of technical headachiness, I'm going to label. Some requests from the technology to do different things than we were prepared for, which took time that we weren't expecting. So some what might be labelled technical challenges earlier. So I'm grateful to see you back, Lynn. And Annie's reloaded. There you are, you're back. So
I'm back.
The invitation says, I'm going to sort of jump in a minute to the next slide. But yeah, curiosity of how this definition of self-care being able to self-talk with compassion to live in a greater alignment with our natural state of love. How that lands for you when you hear it?
Well, yes, it makes sense to me that often we tend to think about compassionate communication going outwards to others, and so having a sense of compassionate communication with ourselves and empathy for the parts of us that are having a bit of a jackal rant, I find quite effective, really. Very helpful, being able to listen to that voice, and kind of, I guess, treating it as if it is another external, because it seems like an external voice, but really it's coming from a part of me that's not happy, has some needs up that it's squawking about or barking about, and turning to that part of me and empathizing with it and being kind, and helps to calm that part down. Not as a fix-it strategy, but as that's a result that part of me can breathe out and go, yes.
It's more, it's the loveliness of having a part of you feel really heard and valued by you, when it's needing to be heard, needing to be valued, and wanting the sort of the witnessing part or the listener in you. It's wanting that listener to be more considerate of the part that's up.
Instead of perhaps doing, noticing that I'm having judgmental thoughts about other people, and then thinking, oh no, I shouldn't do that. That's
Lost everybody. Oh, I was talking and I'm guessing you couldn't hear me. No, and I can't hear you either. It automatically turns off the microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. It just automatically turns the microphone off when we drop out. And I'm mourning because I'm guessing it's something at this end where my internet was interrupted for a minute. So something might have happened here.
Right.
And I'm grateful that the system reloaded itself quite quickly.
Have no idea where I got up to.
No, it's been lost to me too. I'm just going to settle back. So, Annie, I wanted to check in with you if there's anything you would like to share as a sort of beginning introduction or reflection on self-care as it is for you, especially with the embodiment work we did today, even to comment from there.
So that's what I was just pondering, the ability to self-talk with compassion. And I was wondering, curious about our language of the heart, which doesn't often have words, and it's really warm, and it maybe comes in us, and it's a different way of communicating with ourselves and with other people, and incredibly effective. which we sort of felt today, that ability to really drop into your own heart and then connect with another person. That's sort of fascinating to me at the moment, because I've had several people now say I could feel that connection. And I started looking at the heart math sort of research they're doing, and it's like, yes, science is catching up and saying, yes, they can measure heart resonance being received by somebody in another place. So what an incredibly powerful tool we have. What a wonderful resource for each other we have.
I love hearing
my little reflection.
Yeah, I'm really delighted that you bring this the heart resonance piece. And what I reflect on as I hear you share that is that it's really our ability to self-relate with compassion. It's not necessarily the words, it's the relationship, and the relationship of the heart, the relationship of the core needs and the energy of that. It's really an energetic relationship. It's as well as the word. So it's bringing a compassionate relationship to ourselves. And it, in essence, Shez taught me this, that the essence of compassion, the word itself comes from to be with pain. But I'm remembering you said the other day, Shez, when we were all together, sadness is sacred. And I have a sense of how it's sacred because it opens the heart so beautifully, and that actually it's to self-relate with compassion, to be able to be with our upsetness as well as our joy, and have an open-heartedness with it, with ourselves. And so I'm really including what you're bringing, Annie, in the definition. And so I'm asking of myself to update it from self-talk to self-relate, to include the resonance and energy of it. Thank you. So, yeah, this is class 2 of the 8 that is imagined. And there's something about this evolving nature of this class. We did have a conversation, Annie and I, a couple of days ago about the possibility of even creating a live room for more interaction, because we're both missing being able to talk with the participants who are coming to hang out with us. And now that Shez has been able to come on camera even more so, it's like, oh, I would love to include those who are in the webinar here with us on the screen. So there is an evolving nature to this program, and I'm enjoying it. So I don't know why that comes up now, but it's sort of like a heads up that yes, there are 8 classes marked on the program for delivery, and that I'll be here for 8 Monday nights. And I'm loving that there's a sense of inclusion and friendship and support here. And I'm also guessing it might evolve over the 8 weeks. I'm sort of inviting people to stay tuned, because it might look a little different over the next few weeks as it evolves. So, yes, and so the slide here is really just to remind those of us who were at last week's class that we stepped through the principles and the sort of, or the pathway of self-care that I am working with at the moment. This is also evolving, but this is what seemed to have stuck over the last year and a half as I've been working with entrepreneurs and one-on-one with people to support this journey of being with, learning how to relate even in new ways, other than what we've been programmed with, which often, but it certainly was often for me, didn't have a lot of life-serving value to it. There was a lot of demand, energy, and shoulds and have-tos in my thinking, and really that we covered that last week. And I would encourage anyone who's interested, who might be watching this one, to discover the Self-Care Pathway webinar that we did last week on YouTube. And if you just Google Karen Thompson-Anderson on YouTube or search for me, you'll find that recording there, where we went into some depth about these two parts of the process. And I came up with the little, what's it called when you choose a letter and abbreviate HWE. Thank you, that's the one, an acronym. Came up with the acronym of WEMAC, and I thought we make a difference when we self-care. We make a difference. English pronunciation, apologies. So honesty, warmth, and empathy. The warmth part really stood out last week. And Annie suggested we even put warmth in every step, in the beginning of each step, and bring warmth to our morning, bring warmth to our appreciation, to just this bringing of warmth really to ourself relating has a tendency to soften the body and open the heart in ways that allow us to make choices and move forward in ways that perhaps are unexpected, rather than perhaps being in defendedness or in resistance or in anxiety. So, yes, I just revisit that side from a point of view of saying, remember where we were last week. We were at the self-care pathway, and we're going to include it in a broader context tonight. That's what's there for me, is just to bring that this wonderful self-care pathway is a process within a slightly bigger picture, and that's what I'm hoping to bring tonight. Just a slightly bigger picture to show where the value of this process can really come to bear. So I would love to introduce in the next few slides the 5 core needs and a model for well-being that I see as the why we're doing it, why we're doing warm self-care, a journey about learning warmer self-care, why we might be doing that, and really what we're really tending to when we use the self-care process. In my humble opinion, I believe that we're tending to our core needs, and they show up in so many different and varied ways, but that we are tending to our core needs, that they're the voices, they're the parts that have got things to say and wanting to be heard. So I have a little map, and I wanted to maybe see if it helps me explain it. So I'll pop to that next. And there seems like a lot on this slide, because actually there is, obviously, from a Jackal point of view. My intention when I created the slide was to actually slowly reveal these parts. So because I'm not playing the slides as a recording and actually playing them out in the way that they were designed, all of the info's here. So I'll just do my best to simplify it. And the invitation would simply be to focus on the step 1 in the purple arrow there at the top left. Because in the self-care pathway, we talked about the 2 steps and the dotted line, and that the step 1 is really meeting honestly with the parts that are wanting to express themselves and showing up as maybe angry thoughts or lonely thoughts or defensive and maybe scared or annoyed parts. We're wanting to hear maybe the voices of the parts that have something very precious alive and are needing to be heard. And that might feel a bit uncomfortable. And I see we've reloaded. So I will screen share again. Is the screen view, is that comfortable? And is it?
It's three. I can't see the slides. Oh, now we're back down the bottom.
Okay. Are the slides coming through for you now?
No. Oh, yes. Hallelujah.
Oh, wonderful. We're back.
I can see the slide, although our little video images are covering the bottom, the lilac and the yellowy golden disc circles.
I wonder if I can move that up a bit. I'll have a look at that because I wondered whether or not it was going to put our little pictures along the bottom or along the side and what might be covered. But I can just speak those ones out. So we've got what I'm seeing in the first step of responding to our parts that are wanting our attention is that we're working with those parts to discover what needs they're wanting to meet. So looking in a discovery with curiosity, is it some warmth and connection we're needing and support? Is it that we're needing to express ourselves, our autonomy and freedom? Is it that I'm going around the circle from the red one to the orange to the golden? So we have these 5 core needs. The golden one is self-worth. Are we longing to feel worthy? Are we longing to feel that we matter to ourselves? The lilac one is structure. Are we longing for some order, something dependable, something that contributes to our feeling safe? Are we wanting, coming to the pink one, are we needing some play? Are we needing some sense of expression and joy? So there's and creativity. So there's these 5 core needs, and from them, my sense is that so many of other needs are expressions of these 5 core needs from the child psychologists. And so in the step 2, the 5 core needs are then the energy that return us to our state of well-being. Where if we're listening to the thoughts and the parts of ourselves that are angry or defensive or have something alive that they're feeling worried isn't being heard, we don't enjoy a state of well-being in our body. So this is just sort of an overview map of the process of the self-care pathway, the context being that we're attempting to connect to our 5 core needs, or the needs that are alive, the energy that's alive. And then in the middle of that, this sort of sense that we feel more and more relief, and we land back in a state of well-being in the body. So that it's sort of a moving towards the inner circle, that state of comfort and well-being. So I have a little bit more to explain about that, but I just wanted to give an overview of the process and where it fits in the context, and that there's a bigger why here, that when we self-care, we are empowering ourselves to connect with ourselves in a way that really serves our well-being. And then it supports us to support others' well-being too. But it comes from a place where we're meeting our needs and caring for ourselves. I would enjoy a few words from either of you, Shez or Annie. Just, has this slide helped to explain it, or is there anything, any questions here?
I enjoy identifying the parts: frightened, ashamed or angry, sad, lonely. That makes sense. And yeah, and the five core needs. I think part of what's alive for me is a technical thing, that I would like it to be bigger and not covered by our video, postage stamps at the bottom. It's more of a need for clarity and visibility. That's and I think, as you said, revealing them in bit by bit would, to build the picture would also be very helpful. So I don't know, you didn't ask, I'm not sure what you were wanting, but that's what's there for me.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. That's what I was just needing to hear, your honesty about how it was for you. And I had wondered whether or not, if I reshaped the page, whether or not that would make a difference to it being all visible. I'm not sure that it will do that.
Yeah, maybe it's the platform that does it. I do have something that I'd like to share about the angry part. Like yesterday, I'm supporting my brother with. Does this work for you?
Please.
My brother's unwell, has been unwell. None of us realised quite how unwell he was, and so his paperwork and bills and various things became unmanageable for him, and so it's been a huge piece of work, and even the state of the house. And I just went into overwhelm yesterday and was very, very angry and wanted to fix everything immediately, and thought that I should, and had judgments about other people, and then judgments about myself, that I should be more patient and kind, and so I'm just really resonating with identifying the parts. And I felt very alone. My sister was here for 3.5 weeks, and she's gone back to the US, so it's back to me. And fortunately, I'm blessed and grateful that I have friends who can listen empathically, and I called some and ended up getting one, and that really helped me to connect with what was important to me, and to mourn, and so such a relief. That's what's there for me. Thank you.
Annie?
Well, I returned to a state of well-being where I could function and move forward. And miraculously, when I came back to the house, my brother was engaged in the task that I had asked him to do. And so that was joy. And I didn't, what I meant by doing that, what I didn't do was express my anger and resentment and everything all over him, which is hardly going to contribute to his well-being, given that he's unwell. So the self-care contributed to care of another.
Well, thank you. That beautifully illustrates the story of what these pretty colours and words are attempting to share. So thank you. I'm really enjoying that. And I really have the sense that as we meet the parts of us that are wanting to express in ways that are painful for us and likely painful for others to receive, that as we bring love to those parts, that we bring a gentleness, more of a gentleness to ourselves and to others, more care. And recognizing that all expression is an expression of love too. It's just how we're expressing ourselves can really contribute to a warmth and a joy and a aliveness in the body that feels nourishing, and that I would call it well-being. And I love how you've shared a story that sort of speaks to that. What about for you, Annie?
I'm now wondering about the word well-being and what it means to people, because it, say if I, for instance, was Shez's brother and I'm doing well and I can't handle all my things and I'm obviously very separate from my sense of well-being, and maybe haven't known it for quite a long time. Can a resonance also bring that other person back into well-being? Like Shez found hers. I'm going back to the heart resonance sort of thing. That energetic resonance seems to be by her doing the work. It allowed another person to find their well-being. So what's well-being? That's my, yeah. Is it being at home? No matter what? Those external circumstances may be playing out in any form at any time, and in our world they usually are. Even if they're not in our consciousness, they're in the collective consciousness for us to grab. So if we're short of fear, there's some there to grab. Yeah.
I have been pondering, like you, that very question. And I'm very present to the quote from Marshall Rosenberg, founder of nonviolent communication, compassionate communication, who spoke of our connection, our interconnectedness as human beings, and how if there's not well-being for another, how that impacts our well-being. When we see the suffering of another, that we're so interconnected, and as you say, that there's certainly enough suffering and fear on the planet to keep us busy if we wanted to engage all of it to contribute. And there's this sense that maybe that's, as a martyr, that's what I was attempting to do for many years. You know, I ran a home-based project. You can hear my puppies. A home-based project called the Global Kindness Initiative. And I really had this mission. I wanted to make sure that kindness reached every corner of the globe. You know, I took it upon it myself as a burden to ensure that more kindness was out there. And I did take it on as a burden, and I found so many reasons why more kindness was needed on the planet, and I was overwhelmed by my have-tos and shoulds about more kindness on the planet out there. But there wasn't a sense that I was here with myself, doing my own self-care first. It's like the old adage of, you know, look after your own backyard and do global locally. And it was the journey with compassion that I've been on now for maybe 7 or 8 years of really learning more about what is compassion, what is well-being, and discovering, it's here at home. It's the homeness I have with myself, that if I can bring compassion and warmth and a care and a playfulness and a sense of there's well-being here, then I've got that to share that contributes. That I was contributing less by my worrying about it all. And that I've brainstormed a couple of things on the well-being slide. It's coming up. And I've brainstormed a couple of things that speak to me about what is well-being. And I'm not sure words fully can grasp it, because I have a sort of a spiritual sense of it too, that I don't think I have yet words for, but there's definitely a sense of peace in it for me. And I think it's something that we discover for ourselves on a self-care path. If we are willing to do the compassionate inquiry with ourselves and willing to do the self-care and listening for needs and discovering the ways that we've been educated to treat ourselves with less aliveness or less care than perhaps we might like to now, then if we're on that pathway, we begin to discover, I think, for ourselves what is our well-being. It's very unique. And I'm remembering you say, Annie, that you were pottering around in the garden today and that you spent time slowing down a number of times in the day. And it sounds to me like you had a most wonderful well-being day, tending to the needs of gentleness and creativity and connecting with the earth and following the needs that were alive for you. So, yes, I'm enjoying the exploration of what is well-being myself. I'm going to jump ahead. I would like to spend, perhaps, again, this slide was intended to be a slow reveal. So please hold with, I guess I'm asking for you to see my intentions, for me to be seen in my intentions, that I wanted to contribute ease and to build a picture here for you. And I have this sense of there's more on the slides right now than I would really enjoy. And I'm going to just be with my morning about that and perhaps step through them again with a little bit more of an eye to how these 5 core needs might show up. So they might show up as other longings for acceptance or closeness. And when I look at the secure connection, the core need for secure connection and the little girl snuggling, I'm remembering reading some wonderful material about attachment styles last year. And I learned something about how we all learn differently about attachment, about secure connection with our primary caregivers, and that there are ways of describing those types of connections that we have when we're young, ranging from warm, secure connection, where the primary carer is able to hold all of our emotion, be able to mirror back to us, empathically mirror back to us the emotions we're having, and also help us to reconnect when we're little and we might be having a tantrum on the floor in the supermarket, that because we can't have a toy or something, and that the caregiver can actually recognize and resonate with of course you'd be upset, and then actually supporting the little one who's us to come back into joyful resonance of, or be able to be validated, acknowledged in the sadness and upset, and be warmly held. And our friend Joe Field, who's a parenting expert, talks about holding the wall of futility with love. So no, we're not getting the toy, and you really matter, and how it is for you matters. And supporting warm connection between the caregiver and the child. So that's one of the connection types. And there are others, and I will only. Oops, I've got puppies in the background again. My wonderful children are supporting me tonight, and I know they're doing their best with the puppies. So the other two, I'll just name them. If you have interest in attachment styles, I really encourage personal inquiry with it. But ambivalent attachment might be called "come here, go away" in Jackal. It's like 1 minute I feel safe, the next minute I don't, and that can be here again, gone again. So a sort of insecure connection with a primary caregiver. And the last one is avoidant attachment, which is more, I actually feel safer when you're not in the room. I actually feel safer when you're not with me. So there's sort of an avoidant attachment style. There's an ambivalent attachment style and a secure, warm, secure connection attachment style. And these attachment styles really are just their labels, and they speak to different people's experience. And I just name them for curiosity's sake. But to name that, I'm not sure how many of us on the planet have been given warm, empathic, resonant, secure connection from primary caregivers. And of course, we might be a bit short on the planet of that sort of parenting because of the cultural environment that we've all grown up in our different cultures. There seems to be a rediscovery of warm, secure connection as a parenting intention, and empathy in parenting. And part of me would like to say that seems to be fairly new in the last 10 years, that we've come back around to that. There was sort of very authoritarian parenting, perhaps as a generalization, and then perhaps more permissive parenting as another generalization, and then finding this warm, holding the wall of futility and warmth in a way that empowers the little ones to learn warm, secure connection with themselves. So that's the first core need. I'm going to go a little more quickly through these others because I know that I'm holding care for our time. It's 10 to 8. Structure makes sense as, the things that we do daily, maybe doing our dishes, like the little one in the picture there. Having a sense of structure and order. There's dependability. There's some effectiveness and consistency of things that matter to us as daily routines. And I'm also aware that structure is a psychological, has a psychological aspect to it as well as a daily routines aspect to it. And I won't speak to those tonight because we'll actually be looking at structure in the weeks to come. We'll look at each of these in a bit more detail. So the third one there, the goldy coloured one, the self-worth, really this can show up as a whole range of needs, like a need for acknowledgement, to matter, to contribute, have a sense of meaning and mattering. And I've put the ability to celebrate and mourn. It may show up as that. I mean, I'm guessing that these the need for self-worth is really, I matter enough to look after myself and to celebrate when things work, when I do things that work for me, and to mourn when I do things that don't work for me, but mourn without punishment. I'm worthy of understanding when I do things that don't actually meet the needs I was attempting to meet. The lilac one, autonomy. So needs might express the need for autonomy might express itself as longings for freedom or independence or choice. It's a big one. Self-direction, competence, and the fifth one there, play, might express itself in variations of creativity, spontaneity, variety, pleasure, flow, inspiration, challenge. So just looking at the ways that these 5 core needs may express themselves, and just having more of a sense that, oh yes, well, they're the needs underneath what's happening when I'm in story mode and I'm upset. There's a deeper longing that's wanting to express itself. And so it's these core needs that really the invitation of self-care is to tune into these, as opposed to staying with the story and being in the judging and the blaming. So thank you. That's an introduction tonight to core needs. And this was my slide to just gently introduce well-being, and I'm going to delete this slide here from the overlay and explain why it was there. So for me, these are some of the evidences that I've come to understand are part of how I experience well-being. And I would definitely point to things like having a warm and relaxed, open sense of the body and the heart, and trust is very present for me. I'm trusting myself, I'm trusting life. I have a sense that I'm okay, the world's okay, we're working on it. It's not, I'm not in any fatalistic sort of thinking. I'm in a life-enhancing relationship with other people and with myself and with my, what I'm calling well-being aspects. So these are sort of like the jobs or tasks of being human. And I love that this brings it to a very human fullness, not just the spirituality of well-being, where we can enjoy the resonance of what it's like to be in well-being when we're in like communion with other people or within a sense of nature communion. There is a beauty and exquisite beauty of the state of well-being, and there's also some very practical, very pragmatic ways that we look after our well-being, that it's lived, our spirituality is really lived through how we are relating with our pragmatic humanness as well. And so I have this sense of like tending to the family of aspects around me, and that if I'm starting to do judgment thinking, I can do something like popping these outer aspects like up on top of well-being. So I'm just going to ask for some support. 1 second. Jet, are you? Thanks, I'm back. I'm holding with care that my son feels some disappointment that his sister's not also involved in play and care for the puppies right now. He's experiencing some mourning for the support that he would really love in the company, perhaps. So coming back to this slide is this sense of that I always have a state of well-being available. That's really at the heart of this little picture, is really what I'm trying to convey, that well-being's, in my imagining of it, always available here. And that what can happen is that our stories and our relationship with these different aspects, like other people and our purpose, or our sense of our relationship with time and feeling anxious about that, or relationship with finances and feeling anxious about them, or technology, or our state of health, that we can be in stories so much that we obscure our view of our well-being, but that it's still with us. And that by having a sense of relationship with well-being first, which I believe the self-care pathway supports, by self-caring enough to return to well-being first and then making relational choices with, what will I do next? What's alive in me to do next? Will I take care of this finance piece? Will I take care of this piece of work around living my purpose? Will I look after the technology challenge that I'm also presented with? You know, what will I look after? But I'm going to want to look after it. The more and more I can connect with my well-being, the more I'm going to bring a resonance of care to those, to relating with those, that I have found is so much more productive and effective. That I actually, things move energetically, changes happen without me necessarily efforting an enormous amount. That if I'm in anxiety or story mode, I effort a lot to try to look after all the things in my care, and I feel overwhelmed a lot. And that was in the slide last week of how we can create misery or mastery, the two pathways that I cheekily named misery or mastery. Finding a way of being in the self-care and well-being path, and finding ways to be with our the aspects of our well-being with more willingness and softness and openness to engage it, rather than defendedness and avoidance and the things that can get in the way of us making real progress in our lives. Yeah, life-enhancing progress. So I'm curious, Annie, since you raised a curiosity yourself about well-being, would you like to comment here?
I recognise how I can see how we easily get pulled out of or feel like we're pulled out of our sense of well-being.
Mm.
But the point here is that we're sort of always in well-being, whether we know it or not. Always present.
Yeah.
That
it's really, to me,
that if
foundation.
We follow that path and bring in some warmth whenever we're out in those outer circles, in the realms of angry thought, all those other things, or any of those thoughts that might occur in these little boxes too, the stress of any of those, whenever we're out there, we mistakenly feel like we're not home. Is that how it goes?
That's a joyful reflection for me to hear. It's succinct and sweet. Thank you.
It's like we misplace ourselves. Oh, I've misplaced myself. Oh, goodness. Better come home. Oh, I found myself.
Well, we place ourselves in the story.
Mm.
In the story about how it should be some other way, and it's like the pathway out of the story and back to well-being is that warmth and resonant empathy for that part that has relocated itself in the suffering story.
Yeah. Thank you, Shiz. Yeah, I have a sense of breathing more deeply, the joy of being understood, having a sense of expressing something that really feels very meaningful to me, that well-being as a point of focus for our self-care has a way of aligning the thinking so that I can check, oh, is this thinking actually supporting my living, my well-being? You know, am I in thoughts here that are hurting my head and my body, and could I be in a different resonance? Could I be in a more of a well-being resonance to approach this that I'm being, that I see as mattering? Something here matters. How do I want to bring myself to it? And how can I hold myself with care as I approach the things that matter to me? You know, I'm remembering it really mattered to my dad to be at the airport on time. And we would leave at least 2 hours, 2.5 hours early when it took, maybe 45 minutes to get to the airport. And the enormous stress in my dad's language, in his body, in his how he was expressing himself about his care for being on time, and the joy that he wanted to experience by getting on the plane that he'd, organised for us, or whatever was happening. It meant so much to him that he expressed it as enormous anxiety, overwhelm, stress, and controlling behaviour towards us kids about, you can't do that, get in the car right now. And the tone was very different to that. It was a lot more demanding. So I'm remembering, like as an example of when things really matter to us, we can get more caught in the story and do more or less life-serving things with our energy that may end up that the process of getting there diminishes the end result of the needs we were trying to meet anyway. It can actually really diminish our getting to the needs met. So yes, thank you. So really my intention was just to revisit the self-care pathway from last week a little, and maybe to do some live chat about that. But what's there for me now, because we've already covered so much in these few slides, the idea of well-being and the idea of 5 core needs, and how the 5 core needs fit in this picture of why are we learning the self-care pathway. This was sort of the macro view, this slide set tonight. That was the hope, to give a more macro view of the pathway itself and why it occurs to me as so valuable to share. So really, I'd just enjoy to hear any feedback from the two of you on what we've covered, or what's alive for you both, or even hear from those of you watching if there's something you'd be willing to share as feedback now with the slides that we've gone through. And I'll turn off the screen share now. So I can see shares and I can't yet see any. And I'm wondering if you can hear me, Annie.
I can hear Annie and I can see her image, but it's frozen.
Okay. So I'm just curious, Shez, because it's been a little while since we've sat and played with self-care as a subject matter in this sort of context, and I'm just really curious, as you sit with what's been shared, what's alive for you? Oh, it looks like I've lost my dear friends online. Here we go. Shez is back and Annie's back. That's lovely. It's like, oh, I've lost you. No, you're there again. Hello again. I don't know if you heard my request, Shez, but it was a request based on the fact that
I did, and I started to speak, and then it just switched itself. Well, there's the there's the 5. Well, there's the pathway and the steps to coming back to a place of resonance, and there's the 5 core needs, and there's the different aspects of well-being as well. So I'm seeing the different parts, and imagining that as you go through the series, that how to work with those that will be the unfolding. That clarity will come about those.
Yeah, thank you. And Lynn's made the same comment. I'm interested how these 3 schematics work together: the self-care pathway, the core needs, and the well-being schema. It's a lot of parts. So yes, and it is the macro picture that I've zoomed right out to want to give a sense of context, really. That was the need that was alive for me, was to give that sense of where does the self-care pathway fit? How does it serve? And in the next, got 5 weeks to come, that there's an unfolding of a deeper understanding of that. And that will go through each of the 5 core needs and be a little bit more familiar with each of them, and do some fun sort of exploration for ourselves, each of us who are watching, and that each of those will give an opportunity to practice the self-care pathway, to practice with, are our needs for play being met? And how might we enjoy to meet our needs for play? Or how might we enjoy to meet our needs for more warm, secure connection if it's something that's precious to us? So, looking at the different parts and how they fit together. Thank you, Shez. And Annie, any feedback from you?
Coming to me that there has to be, before we even get on the path, there has to be some understanding that, or some realization that I'm out of myself. I'm not home. I'm out of well-being. I'm in a story, which I think is your honesty bit, but it's also like an awareness bit, isn't it? Like, you have to notice, and then you can be honest about it. But there has to be, because so many times I feel like, and I don't even notice, I'm in there and go, yeah. And the more I do my own personal work, the more quicker I realize, oh, here we go, what's going on? But I notice that for many people, there's no distinction between themselves and the story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, it does.
So that would seem
nodding too. Yes.
I have to notice. I have to notice something and feel like I need to make a change. I want to be alive. I don't want to live like this. What's happening to me?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly resonate with your observation, and my hope is that by inviting people to consider the distinction between the self-care act and the self-care consciousness, that really what I'm inviting people through this program to consider is that self-care is a consciousness, and it does take mindfulness. It does take awareness of, oh, here I am again stressing about the dog's barking, or here I am again stressing about, and I'm going to go into control and yelling at people and to get things to be exactly how I want them. And do I really want to be there doing it that way? Actually, my state of well-being is I can find more acceptance for how things are, and I can also find more power to make choices. And I see, as I feel more trust, that I'm not stressed out, and particularly about the puppies. I'm seeing my son do the most beautiful job of bringing them water and doing things for them. And there's so much care here. And I know that the previous versions of me stressing about puppies barking in the background would have brought so much more anxiety into the environment, to Jet, to the possibility that the puppies would have been barking louder and more noisy. And it's, I notice that's where I am. I'm actually in the anxiety of it's not, this isn't how it should be. And then stepping back and recognizing, I see myself doing that, and that's not how I'd enjoy it to be. So I don't know, I said lots of words there because part of that was a little mini process for me of celebrating what's happening here, because in past weeks it's been different, a different sense of have tos and shoulds around having a silent background. And I've really come to rest. As long as it's not to the degree that no one can hear me or hear what's going on, I feel more at rest with it. So I'm just checking the chat, and I'm noticing that maybe I've frozen on screen. I'm not sure if that's still the case, that my voice dropped out a little. And I am just grateful, really, here. What's going on for me now is like a sense of completion, of ease, of a sense of if there's nothing else alive, that feels done for us tonight. I wonder how it is for both of you, Shez.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Food is my body's calling for food, so I'm looking forward to a meal. And I've enjoyed hanging out with you and Annie, and it is a new platform for me. I mean, we have done it before years ago, but I haven't been on this platform for a while, so it's a very different way of delivering. And I have something there about that I'm not really, don't want to go into right now, but yeah. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Been a joy, thank you. And Annie, for you?
You both are frozen right now.
Oh, am I? Can you hear me though? Even though I'm frozen, can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can?
Yeah.
Good. Frozen me will talk. Frozen me. Shez, I want to just acknowledge that this platform, Karen and I also were chatting about how could it be more interactive and smoother and more wonderful for us all, and more interactive with the people that are here, so we can have more discussions. So it's a work in progress, and it's lovely to have another person. Yeah, that was really nice. And I'm feeling complete.
Thank you, Annie.
How is
just reading
Karen?
Yeah, I'm enjoying reading the comments too. Jotting down a few points while we are remembering them. Technically, we would like the screen to fill the page more fully, like Sri said, to have the little pics not blocked. Yeah. And more sharing from between the leaders and participants. Yeah, and, Zoom's come up in the conversation we've had this week too. So, yeah, that's really a work in progress. I'll really look at the technology.
Yeah, I'm enjoying reading John's comment and Lynn's as well. Oh,
I'm
excuse me.
guessing that's
You,
John.
Annie and Karen are both frozen. I'm not even sure that I'm with you or that you're hearing me. I have no evidence right now. Can you send me a text message letting me know if you're hearing me?
I'm hearing you. Can you hear me? I'm going to type to you. Yeah.
I'm hearing you.
I'm hearing you too.
Oh, great. Okay.
So
frozen.
Yes, I do. I do find Zoom much easier to use and much more stable. This has been much more unstable than what I'm accustomed to with Zoom. So, yeah, I'm kind of with John with a bit of a vote for the Zoom transition to Zoom. But yeah, I want to just jump off now so I can go and do something about dinner. So thank you and good night, Karen. I'm not hearing your image is frozen, and I'm not. I'm seeing that you're hearing me, and seeing your text message. So I might just be quiet and jump off.
I'm going to do the same and say thank you both and say night and wave, and maybe you can see me, maybe you can't. But night and see you all later. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.
Night.
Good night.